Welcome to the 5th International Conference on Global Citizenship Education. I'm Jung-min from the Asia Pacific Center of Education for International Understanding, known as APCEIU. First of all, I would like to extend our gratitude to everyone who's here today to attend the 5th IConGCED. As many of you might find it familiar, we are now hosting this annual conference online in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. It is set to give up the enriching interactions we've enjoyed before, but we are hoping that this virtual conference will allow us to reach out to a wider audience around the world. As this year's theme puts forth, we hope the conference will help us through the journey in search of solidarity and hope during these difficult times of the pandemic. Without further ado, let us start the conference with the opening ceremony. The 5th IConGCED is co-organized by the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea and APCEIU in partnership with UNESCO. The opening session will begin with remarks by the speakers from the co-organizers and partner organizations of the conference. First, we are honored to invite Mr. Baeg-beom, Vice Minister of Education of the Republic of Korea.
안녕하십니까. 대한민국 교육부 차관 박백범입니다. 제5회 세계시민교육국제회의에 참석해 주신 여러분을 진심으로 환영합니다. 먼저 바쁘신 와중에도 자리를 빛내주신 이태호 외교부 차관님, 스테파니아 지안니니 유네스코 교육사무총장부님, 감사합니다. 또한 이번 행사를 마련해 주신 임현묵 원장님과 유네스코 아태 국제이해교육원 관계자 여러분께 깊은 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 세계시민교육국제회의는 2015년 인천 세계교육 포럼에서 채택된 지속가능 발전 목표 중 세계시민교육 진흥을 위해 2016년 처음 개최되어 올해로 5도를 맞이하였습니다. 평화를 위한 세계시민교육의 역할과 실천 방안을 논의하는 장으로서 매년 그 주제를 확장하고 내용의 깊이를 더해가며 대표적인 국제회의로 굳건히 자리매김했습니다. 전 세계가 코로나19로 인해 어려움을 겪고 있는 지금 편견과 차별을 극복하고 평화의 지평을 넓히는 세계시민교육의 중요성이 더욱더 강조되고 있습니다. 특히 이번 회의에서 세계시민교육으로 만드는 연대와 희망이라는 주제로 국제적 위기를 극복하고 코로나 이후 시대에 대응하는 세계시민교육의 발전 방향을 논의할 예정이기에 더욱 의미가 남다릅니다. 그동안 대한민국 교육부는 국내외 세계시민교육 연구 및 교육자료 개발을 지원하고 교육 현장에 확산될 수 있도록 전문가 양성 및 교류활동 촉진 등 다양한 사업을 추진해 왔습니다. 앞으로도 우리의 아이들이 미래 사회에 필요한 글로벌 역량과 미디어 리터러시 역량을 갖출 수 있도록 지속적인 관심을 가지고 적극 지원하겠습니다. 이번 회의를 통해 평화롭고 포용적인 사회 구축을 위한 여러 방안을 폭넓게 모색하고 나아가 국경을 초월한 연대와 협력을 공고히 하는 계기가 되기를 바랍니다. 감사합니다.
We thank the Vice Minister for his encouraging message. Now it is our privilege to invite Mr. Tae-ho, Second Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Republic of Korea.
It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 5th International Conference on Global Citizenship Education, jointly hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Education of Korea in partnership with UNESCO. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the UNESCO Asia Pacific Center of Education for International Understanding for organizing this virtual conference. This year, in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are adapting the way of conducting the conference, minimizing the in-person contacts and maximizing the virtual interactions. In this regard, I would like to offer my special thanks to those who are joining us online from different locations around the world, and I wish everyone strength and health. Since 2016, the Korean government has hosted an annual international conference on the topic of global citizenship education. This year's conference theme, Fostering Solidarity and Hope through GCED, seems especially timely and meaningful, given the unprecedented challenges our global community is facing during the pandemic. The COVID-19 pandemic has not only overwhelmed public health systems, it has also sapped countries of their socio-economic vitality. The devastating effects have been a powerful reminder of the vulnerabilities of our interconnected societies. In times of crisis, the weakest links in countries' social fabrics tended to be exposed and underlying tensions surface. As the virus has spread around the globe, there have been reports of incidents involving hate speech, discrimination, stigmatization, and even physical assaults against certain racial and ethnic groups. Inequality has also become more apparent in various areas. Education is no exception to it, as the digital divide widens. Such inhumane behaviors and inequalities undermine the fundamental tenets of democracy and human rights. Furthermore, they undercut international cooperation by weakening the mutual trust needed to effectively respond to the crisis. From our experience in the response to the COVID-19 pandemic, we learned an important lesson, that is, to achieve a more sustainable and successful outcome in dealing with infection control and economic shock, it is essential to preserve pivotal principles and values such as openness, transparency, and voluntary civic participation. This is the case not only inside countries, but also across countries. No doubt, building trust among people based on these values and principles is possible only with an enhanced sense of global citizenship among our people that global citizenship education has offered to us. It is against this backdrop that in May, the Korean government launched, together with other like-minded countries, the Group of Friends of Solidarity and Inclusion with the Global Citizenship Education in UNESCO Paris. We did so in the hope of boosting the effectiveness of global citizenship education in countering hatred and discrimination in the global fight against COVID-19. Distinguished participants, a vaccine is aimed at protecting against a viral disease. Likewise, education is needed to fight against prejudice and hatred. The value of global citizenship education lies precisely in its power to promote universal values such as humanism, tolerance, and respect for diversity. These values are the building blocks for a more inclusive, secure, and resilient community of people that is powerful enough to stand against the challenges facing us. Global citizenship education also places great value on multilateral cooperation grounded in mutual trust. It calls for global solidarity to achieve Sustainable Development Goal number 4, in which global citizenship education is enshrined as target 4.7. In this regard, there is a need, more than ever, for international cooperation and the support of multilateral institutions like UNESCO. The Republic of Korea will continue to strengthen its efforts to spread and advocate the value of global citizenship education with unwavering support and commitment. Korea will also do its utmost to make sure that no one is left behind in the access to global citizenship education and to foster solidarity through global citizenship education. I would like to bring my remarks to a close by reiterating my belief that our efforts to shore up the shared sense of humanity and solidarity around the world, as demonstrated in this conference, will ultimately lead to a meaningful change that will help us prepare a better world for future generations. Thank you.
We thank the Vice Minister for his encouraging message. Now we will have a congratulatory address by Madame Stefania Giannini, Assistant Director General for Education of UNESCO. She will be presenting her address in real time. May I now invite you, Madame Giannini, she's here.
Yes, I'm very sorry. There are some issues with connection. Okay. Can you hear me now well?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure, really, to address the 5th International Conference on Global Citizenship Education. I wish to express my deep appreciation to the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Korea for organizing this timely event and for your government's continued support of global citizenship education. On this 20th anniversary of its establishment, allow me also to commend the Asia-Pacific Center of Education for International Understanding, APCEIU, a long-standing partner of UNESCO, for their leading role in promoting GCED in the Asia-Pacific region and beyond. I just keep in my mind having a good memory, such a good memory of the visit I could have last year in Seoul, in this fantastic, very innovative environment and center. Thank you. Congratulating the director and team. Well, the topic of this year's conference, fostering solidarity and hope through GCED, brings much needed optimism, a message of hope and confidence in a context where countries around the world are struggling with the devastating effects of this pandemic. We know today that 40% of the poorest countries couldn't support learners during school closures, and around 500 million students didn't have access to digital learning platforms, and at least 24 million are at risk of not returning to school. In this despondent context, I nonetheless see signs of hope and encouraging signs of a kind of solidarity, as the title of the conference says, and recalls all of us to in this virtual room. 2 weeks ago, UNESCO convened a global education meeting attended by 14 heads of states and government and over 70 ministers. Their message was clear and resolute: protect education financing, prioritize education in recovery plans, and build back more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable. Furthermore, the declaration that was adopted by the Global Education spells out a 12-15-month roadmap to avert a generational catastrophe, focusing on reopening schools safely, supporting teachers as frontline workers, investing in skills development, and narrowing digital divide. As such, the declaration is a message of hope, once again. It materializes a sense of urgency, a sense of commitment and solidarity, but also an unprecedented call for new, out-of-the-box, innovative ideas. Leaders around the world were very clear: we cannot reinstate a system that is so vulnerable to future shocks. We must be more ambitious. They agreed that the priority should be to build back better. That means, as I said before, more resilient, more inclusive, more relevant. Of course, there are urgent tasks to attend to in order to meet the immediate need of learners, but this should not exclude the possibility of thinking longer term. We are not in a zero-sum game. Our need to act quickly and effectively in the face of a crisis does not mean that we should abandon the broad vision of SDG 4. Quite the contrary. As we reopen schools, rearrange the physical spaces in classrooms, invest in blended learning strategies, we are creating a long-awaited opportunities to make fundamental changes to our education systems that can really help accelerate the achievement of SDG 4 in all its dimensions and target 4.7 in particular. Target 4.7, let me say a few words about that. Target 4.7 personifies the social, humanistic, and moral purposes of education that we aim to realize. Target 4.7 forges the link between sustainable development and global citizenship through the reaffirmation of core ethical values such as respect for human life and dignity, equal rights, social justice, culture and social diversity, respect for nature and biodiversity, a sense of shared responsibility and commitment to international solidarity for a common future. Quoting. This is the time to be creative, bold, and visionary, we know. We have an opportunity to repurpose education for the future and ensure it contributes to the global common good. As crisis also amplified the critical importance of schools in learners' physical and mental well-being and the stability of society as a whole, we can no longer turn a blind eye to the social and emotional dimensions of education. Never has it been urgent to ensure that education systems equip learners with the full range of cognitive, socio-emotional, and behavioral skills to become proactive and ethically responsible contributors to the building of more prosperous, just, sustainable, and peaceful societies. This means providing learners with skills for work, life, and living together. We need to help learners of all ages and throughout life face the uncertainties of our time and not succumb to the paralyzing effects of fear and despair, which, as we know, fuel suspicion, hate, and violence. We need to nurture the protective factors that shield learners from the scourge of violent ideologies. We need to stimulate their appetite to learn throughout life and develop their abilities to adapt and thrive in diverse and interconnected societies. In short, we need to release the full potential of global citizenship for education and education for sustainable development. With this commitment, concern in mind, UNESCO has been working hard to infuse this topic, this substantial theme throughout the education system in partnership with education professionals, NGOs, networks in every region and from around the world. More recently, we had decided to bring together our expertise and experience in both education and culture to find new ways, new avenues of contextualizing global citizenship education and to make full use of the many creative resources we have at the community level to build more open and resilient societies. UNESCO has also been elaborating global guidance for education policy makers on a wide range of topical issues. And we are now developing global guidelines for the mainstreaming of social-emotional learning throughout the education systems. To summarize, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic has amplified our interdependence and has showcased the magnitude of a world which is increasingly interconnected. And on the other side, the crisis has shown the critical importance of our own responsibility to act together, to be within in this together. And it's about a new sense of, as I said before, solidarity and partnership. This is really the real core, the message of hope, which is embedded in global citizenship education as a topic. I really look forward to hearing the many positive and inspiring ideas coming from the discussion at this conference. And I wish you a most productive event, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Madam Giannini, for your warm congratulations. Now I would like to invite Mr. Hyun Mook, Director of APCEIU, to deliver the welcoming address.
Excellencies and friends, welcome to the 5th International Conference on Global Citizenship Education. On behalf of the Asia Pacific Center of Education for International Understanding, I am pleased to welcome you all to this conference. First, I would like to thank Mr. Baeg-beom, Vice Minister of Education of Korea, Mr. Tae-ho, Second Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Korea, and Madam Stefania GIANNINI, Assistant Director General for UNESCO, for Education of UNESCO, for your continuing support for this conference. I also thank all the speakers, panelists, moderators, and participants for joining us for the conference from all parts of the world. Dear friends, this year we have been experiencing unprecedented, extraordinary challenges across the world. So we are here today just online. I feel particularly thankful to you all for being with us today despite all the difficulties and constraints. I'm happy to see you all safe and well, but at the same time, I can't help but think about so many people who are suffering from the pandemic. So many people have lost their lives already, and more damage is forced upon poor people of color, elderly people, people with disability, and immigrant workers. Women and temporary workers have been the first to lose their jobs, and this is widening the existing economic inequality. Educational inequality is also expanding. For so many students without access to the internet or even electricity, continuing education itself is a huge challenge. With all these exacerbating inequalities comes the worldwide surge in discrimination, hatred, and violence. So, what should we do? I think first and foremost, we need solidarity and cooperation more than ever. We need to think about our neighbors and fellow citizens and take action, however small, to protect their physical and economic safety. We also need global solidarity and cooperation more than ever. Since this crisis is global, our action must be global. All this is about global citizenship for solidarity and cooperation at local, national, and global levels. I'm not talking about just global level here. Global citizenship is not about global only. It's about local and global, interconnected. So we need to further reinforce global citizenship to enhance our solidarity and cooperation at local, national, and global levels. We need to work together to protect vulnerable people. We need to put our strength together to tackle worsening inequalities and systemic discrimination. And global citizenship education has an important role to do here. It enables and empowers citizens to critically understand root causes of inequalities and systemic discrimination, and to take collective action to fight against these problems. On this note, I hope we will be able to make solidarity and cooperation among ourselves even stronger through this conference. Thank you again for joining us for this conference. Thank you very much.